Corporal punishment is something that is used across the country, even across the world. Corporal punishment is highly debated between everybody, I believe. Everyone has an opinion on what this is and what it isn't. I know that many people believe that corporal punishment is acceptable. I was raised in a generation where it was used on me and my siblings, and we grew up just fine, right? That seems to be a pretty standard argument as to why corporal punishment is a good thing. I'm going to show you why I disagree. Corporal punishment is, of course, standard spanking. I was really interested when I looked up the formal definition of what corporal punishment is to find that it even includes washing your child's mouth out with soap or giving them hot sauce. Most people would use that type of punishment for a potty mouth, right? So some people, or even most people, see that corporal punishment is simply spanking. It is not something that you do out of anger. It is not something that you do to wound the child necessarily, but to respond to their misbehavior with pain. And yes, I'll be one of the first people to absolutely agree that corporal punishment does work. I've used it on my son. I believe that I'm one of the many across the world who struggle to find a method that works, and there have been times where I've resorted to corporal punishment. Although it works, I do believe that there are long-term effects that come from implementing corporal punishment in your home. Did you know that using corporal punishment on your child increases their chances of using it on their children as well? There are lots of long-term effects that come from implementing physical punishment, and studies have proven this to be such. Things like anxiety, antisocial behavior, increased criminal rates, anger management issues, depression, the inability to manage their feelings, right? Lots of psychological behaviors are surfacing, I guess you should say, as and being linked to corporal punishment. If you think about it this way, if you respond with anger or with physical punishment for our children, we're only teaching them that it's acceptable to respond that way in their life. And I can see how teaching our children to do that creates thinking errors in the future. Another thing that's really important to me, and I'm sure the majority of people across the world think this is important as well, is having a good relationship with your child. Using corporal punishment has shown to substantially reduce that relationship that you have with your children. So like I said before, most of us were raised with physical consequences and corporal punishment. Our parents used this. It was much more common back in the day. It is something that was even used in schools. And as we move forward, that's less and less common, right? So most of us would argue, well, we were raised with corporal punishment, we're just fine, right? I want you to really sit back and reflect, though. Out of the things that I listed on the last page about anxiety, depression, anger issues, self-management, lowered intellectual achievements, fighting, criminal records, things of that sort. Did you ever experience that in your adult life? How much do you want to bet some of those things at least were linked to your corporal punishments as a child. So the important thing to think about is there are other options. I'm not here to say that you are a bad parent because you use corporal punishment. Like I said, I've resorted to it too. I have found that with the growing sciences and psychology that we have today, we are learning of methods for parenting that work, that take care of our struggles, and not having to use violence to eliminate misbehavior. Things like natural consequences, where we can, allow our child to learn from experience without having to step in at all. Logical consequences, giving them consequences that are related to their behavior specifically. An example of that could be if my son decides to hit his friend with his Xbox controller, I'm going to take his Xbox away, right? Implementing love and logic. While being able to show our children empathy and show them that emotions are acceptable, while still teaching them how to manage those in a logical way, that's imperative with a child. And then always stay listening. Always be aware of what your child is going through. Think about how they're feeling and what they really need. Look at what's underneath the behavior and find the root cause. These are just some of the sciences and psychology that has been produced as far as parenting, and there are other ways. So what are you going to choose today? Corporal punishment or other options? Have a good day, guys.